welcome to Let's Talk with Dr. Shanessa Fenner. Of course, I'm your host, Dr. Shanessa Fenner, and today I have someone very special and near and dear to my heart as my guest, Val Applewhite. Welcome, Val.
So good to be here, Dr. Shanessa Fenner, my friend Shanessa.
Oh, thank you, sweetie.
Absolutely.
Val, I want you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. I know there are a lot of people that you could have on your show. The fact that you thought about me is really special. I appreciate that. You know, I'm originally from New York City, born and raised in New York City, and I came to Fayetteville on active duty in the Air Force. So I say that I lived a life of service. I have an amazing husband, Ken, and 2 sons, and the oldest one, Joseph, is a student at Fayetteville State.
Wonderful. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos. I'm a Bronco mom, and I'm a Wolverine mom as well.
Okay, Westover.
Westover.
Okay.
My youngest son is a senior there at Westover High School. And as I said, I'm originally from New York, so I've had the opportunity to travel the world on active duty in the Air Force, and that's just an awesome experience to be able to see how other people live, and that's helped me to be the person that I am. And I retired from active duty at Pope Air Force Base, and I left Fayetteville because there were no jobs, and I went to Washington, D.C. for a few years. I worked at the Pentagon. I was at the Pentagon on September 11th on the terrorist attack. But a few years later, I'm a breast cancer survivor. I said, well, I had to catch my breath. So I came back to Fayetteville, and then I ran for public office. So I ran for the Fayetteville City Council back in 2007, a novice in politics, but I had the desire to serve. And I knocked on a couple of thousand doors, and I didn't know what was going on, but I ran, and I won Fayetteville City Council. So I was honored to serve for 6 years, 3 terms, and in 2013 I ran for mayor. Very close race, record turnout. I came up about 260 votes short. Very proud of what we did. My campaign, awesome grassroots operation. And then I ran again 2015. Still came up a little bit short, but I still say that we won because I had the opportunity to engage a lot of people around our community and find out the hearts and the desires of so many citizens here in Fayetteville. So that's who I am in a nutshell. You know, I'm passionate about a lot of things.
Such as?
Our babies, our youth. I know you and I have that in common,
Yes, we do.
but I really do have a passion for youth in our community. You know, I think back when I was growing up in New York and Connecticut, that there were opportunities and resources that helped me along the way. And I think that there's a challenge here in Fayetteville, Cumberland County. I go so far to say that I believe that our youth are in crisis mode.
Oh, yes.
They're in
Especially
crisis.
our black males.
Especially black males, absolutely. And I am a mother of 2 black males, and I know their friends. I spend a lot of time in schools and high schools visiting and just around the community. So I believe that you know, there's a lot of opportunity for improvement in that area, and that's near and dear to my heart.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about a youth summit. I know the babies are near and dear to your heart. I understand you like to have this youth summit. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the challenges that our youth face have to do a lot of different issues, I believe. Here in Fayetteville, many people may not know that there's an issue with human trafficking of young girls and young boys here in Fayetteville. It's tragic. It's epidemic here in Fayetteville. Well, we don't talk about that a lot. There's opportunity or lack of opportunity for healthy interaction for our young people. Where do they go? What do they do? At our mall, our young people are somewhat banned from the mall. Our recreation centers close at 8, 9 o'clock. There's nothing for them to really do. And also, lack of opportunity in employment. So, you know, with my boys, they say, Mom, things are different than when you were growing up. You don't understand. And I agree with that. Because, Shanessa, you and I didn't have the internet.
Oh, no.
We didn't have our phones. all of this going on, and we were more in a neighborhood where your next door neighbor watched out for you.
Yeah, we really are the definition of the village concept back then.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And something's, I have to say I'm guilty of it. Some of my neighbors I don't know. You throw your hand up and you say, hey, and, there's not like a whole lot of interaction. So those are some of the things I think we need to address as a community. So the idea of the Youth Summit goes back to listening to our youth. So what worked for me at 15, 16 doesn't work for my kids now. It's a different day,
Yes,
right?
It is. Yes, it is.
So youth summits across our country have been used to engage our young people, to empower them. And the concept of the youth summit, I want it to be run by our youth.
Oh, wonderful.
I want them to organize it. I want them to structure it. And then I want the outcomes to be theirs. I want to listen to them. Us as adults need to listen to them to say, what do you really want? What are the resources that you really need? What would you like to do? So when I was growing up after school, I played double dutch. Did you used to play
hopscotch, Barbies, ride my bicycle?
Right.
We had a good time. We were outside having fun.
So how about a 16-year-old doing that today?
Oh, no. They're playing their video games, they're texting, doing all kinds of different things.
Lots of different things.
Yes.
So the Youth Summit, I believe, is an opportunity to gather our youth, empower them, let them organize it and talk about the issues that are important to them. Now, at the end of the Youth Summit, we just don't take that data and put it on a shelf somewhere. We're going to organize that data and take it to the leaders of this community. So we'll go to the City Council, to the Fayetteville City Council, and share what our young people are saying. I've traveled, when I was on City Council, I had the opportunity to travel to a lot of different communities, and I see, for example, their recreation centers have more options. They may do crafts, they may do, pottery, they may play basketball, midnight basketball. There's a lot of places where young folks can go and socialize, if it's dancing, and at no cost to kids. We find here in Cumberland County that a lot of our young people are actually being raised by their grandparents.
Yes, many of them.
Or in a foster environment.
Or
So-
an aunt or an uncle.
Or an extended family members. So what if we make a concerted effort, we listen to them and connect each young person to something that they value?
Love it.
And you're an educator, would you
Yes.
agree with that?
Yes, I am.
That's the concept of the Youth Summit. But I really want to emphasize youth jobs.
Okay.
There's a lot of situations we find our young people coming in contact with law enforcement.
Yes.
I see kids that go to the recreation center, there's nothing to do, and they start walking the streets. Sometimes trouble kind of finds you.
Yes, it does.
Right? So there's a program in Memphis, Tennessee called Employ Youth. It's an awesome program where the local government engaged local businesses. The very first year they had 6,000 young people apply for jobs.
Wow.
They wanted jobs. They were only able to offer 1,000.
Okay.
And they did it through a lottery sort of system. But they engaged a partnership with the local government, with local businesses, and they were able to offer these jobs. They gave them training for interview skills, how to dress. They had nonprofits that gave them clothes to wear. The city gave them free bus passes so they could get back and forth to work. And there's a similar program in Baltimore called Baltimore Works. And you find local businesses that give jobs to young people in the summer. And I was looking at one link, a business owner said, it's such a win-win because when these young people work for them 3 and 4 years in high school, when they graduate, they often employ these kids, young people, full-time for those that don't want to go to college. So that's an option that I think is very important. If you remember here in Fayetteville, we had problems with parties in the summertime, and we're looking at a whole lot of different options, but we've never spoken to the young people.
Exactly.
So I've already reached out to many people in the community. There's a great interest, and we're going to start in the new year, start to have meetings, engage counselors at schools, and you develop leadership that way. So I'm really excited about that. And then, as I said, I don't want to meet one time and just go away. I see this as an effort that we should continue to engage our young people and, more importantly, empower them. So I'm excited.
So when you start meeting in January, do you propose that they'll have summer jobs, or what's your anticipated?
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure how quickly we can have that happen.
Okay.
You know, in some cities, local government will allocate funds. You know, right here in Fayetteville, you hear a lot of talk about a Parks and Recreation bond,
Yes,
where the city is proposing to spend $40–50 million in splash pads and tennis courts and baseball fields.
Planetarium.
Yeah, I think it was a planetarium, aquarium, all of those things. And it's interesting, about 2 weeks ago, I was at an event with Dr. Ben Chavis, civil rights activist, who's very, very insightful gentleman. And there was a good number of young people there in the audience, and I had the opportunity to speak for a few minutes, and I said, by a show of hands, how many of you would like a summer job? I mean, every hand went up. Some people put up 2 hands. So that's something that that is needed. So what I would hope to do when we get the data, the information for the young people,
Okay.
I propose that we go to City Hall
Wonderful.
and we talk to our mayor.
Okay.
We talk to our city council members and say, this is important to our young people, because we all say that they're our future. So if you can find $50 million in a Parks and Recreation bond, how much could we find to start a summer job program quickly?
Okay.
And since I have been elected and I know how that money thing works, and I know that there is money available, there's great opportunity, not just with the city council, but with the county commissioners, with the school board as well, local businesses. In fact, some cities require, or at least ask, if you have a contract with the city, if you have a contract with the county, if you do any business with local government, find a job for a young person. And it works very well. So some of the best models were in Baltimore, Maryland, and Memphis, Tennessee. So we probably will come up with a hybrid. Just want to figure out what works. But that is going to be the end result of the youth summit that I hope will happen. Maybe not by this summer, but if we really place some emphasis on it, I think we could really do it. No need to push it off a whole nother summer.
Exactly.
You know, there's businesses here, so I'm excited about it. So
I wish you well with it. If there's anything I can do to help or assist, just please let me know.
Absolutely. You know, I think that, you know, again, I had the honor of serving the citizens of Fayetteville for 6 years. I understand local government, and you know, one of the sayings that I came up with on my time on council is that elected officials often do things for one of 2 reasons. Because it's the good, one is because it's the good, moral, ethical, right thing to do for a community. It just makes sense to do.
Okay.
Okay? And then elected officials do things because they're forced to do it. Pressure, persistence by the community. That's how it happens. So I'm hopeful that our elected officials will say, you know, it's a good cause because we talk about it. But if not, I say we need to engage them. You know, there's public forums. Why wouldn't 100 parents, 100 kids show up at a city council meeting or at a county commissioner meeting and say we want jobs? I had a Facebook post, dialogue started where the Cumberland County Commissioners spent several $1 million expanding the local jail, which needed to happen. And if we can find millions of dollars to expand a jail, maybe we can find 1 million for opportunities for young people. So, and that does, Shanessa, that does go back to engaging local officials, and let's switch to parents now, the adults in the room, because these young people don't vote yet, but we do. And that is a challenge in our community. Some of it needs to be an educational process. I'll give you an example. During this last election, my election, the municipal election, some people didn't realize it was election time.
Are you serious?
They didn't understand it. And I've had some conversations with people that said, I saw the signs around the community, I just figured it was election time. So there has to be an educational process that happens in our community. Some people, really didn't have a good understanding of a primary election and a general election. So there's a lot of work ahead, and as we enter a presidential year in 2016, and there's a lot of changes in the election, in the political process, voter IDs that are needed in 2016. The primary has been moved up to March in North Carolina. So there's a lot of moving pieces that we've got to be better at educating the populace on, because it's just that important. We come through a local election. A lot of people only vote during presidential elections. But local elections are probably the most important that
Yes, they are.
we'll ever have. Because what happens in City Hall, when the green or red button is pushed on a Monday night, it can be so Tuesday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be engaged more with local elections, but more importantly, work at having people understand the political process. This is regardless of what party you're in, Democrat, Republican, but I will tell you, particularly in the African American community, that is a challenge.
But what needs to be done? I mean, what do you think is a good way to educate the people who don't know about this?
Well,
It's like you can hold forums, but they may not show up.
Correct.
You could pass out flyers, they may not read them or understand them.
Right.
So, I mean, what can we do?
Well, Shanessa, I think that really it does start with personal responsibility. 2015 is the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. It's the 50th anniversary for the March on Selma. That at some point, where is that passion gone for so many people that have fought and died for our right to vote, to be a part of the political process, and something has just happened in those 50 years. So I think it does happen, it has to be a personal responsibility, so we move forward from that. There are many nonprofit organizations that need to do better. NAACP is very well known. Well, they need to do better. Local Democratic Party, Cumberland County, the party itself. I am a registered Democrat. We need to do better locally to engage and understand, make sure our citizens understand. But another way is, during the election, I asked people that did understand the process just to go get one person. Find a friend in your phone. You probably have about 200, 300 names in your phone.
Yes, you do.
Okay. Find one person and say, hey, did you know the election? Are you registered? Do you have ID? Do you have that? So those of us who do understand, take a minute to educate someone that does not. So I ask people, it's not enough for you to vote and understand the process. Educate someone else, because it's our community that's at stake. And as I mentioned, I'm not from Fayetteville. So I look at Fayetteville a different way. It's my home now. I have a different perspective of Fayetteville. And during the campaign, I started thinking, Fayetteville is like a tale of two cities. it is absolutely the best of times. There's some wonderful, wealthy, amazing communities, neighborhoods here in Fayetteville. And then you have such poverty in a small city. Fayetteville is small compared to Philadelphia, New York, where you go across town and you see across the bridge to the poverty versus the wealth on the other side. But here in Fayetteville, you can literally throw a stone between $1 million house and a house that's barely standing. So we have to start to wonder, how do we allow that to exist in such a small community? And who is responsible for changing that? Who is responsible for saying, that's not right? How do we have a Sky Drive and a B Street within a mile of each other, but yet we turn our attention to swimming pools and splash pads, and so many people don't have paved roads. We live in trailers that are falling apart. We have schools that need funding. How do we do that? So it goes back to personal responsibility. It goes back to grassroots organizations. And as an individual, that's what I hope to do. You don't always have to be elected to do great things. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things. You do extraordinary things in your school. I've visited you. I've seen you for years, how young people engage you, and you've been at several schools since I've known you. And everywhere you've gone, you've left a trail of excellence. So, and I mean that sincerely. Every person absolutely does have a role, whether it's in a school, whether it's in City Hall, whether it's in a church, whether it's the janitor that's sweeping the floor in a building. It's community that will make it better for everyone else. And that's what you can tell. I'm very passionate about. Yes, that. I can. We have to be empowered, our future, socially, politically, and economically. We have to create jobs in our communities. We have to be able to create wealth. My son, who will graduate from Fayetteville State with a chemistry degree, a smart kid.
That's right.
He's going to NC State to get his engineering degree.
You go, boy.
And he says, Mom, I can't come back to Fayetteville. There's no jobs for me here. Wow. Now, there's some truth to that. I meet many people like myself. When I got out of the military, I said, I can't work for the wages that are here. I had to leave. I had to go to Washington, D.C. So that's another thing that I feel that other than youth, economic parity in this community, there's tremendous wealth in Fayetteville. Some people think Fayetteville's a poor city.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
We're not poor. Mm-hmm. It's just the distribution of wealth. It's that we don't demand better. Bringing jobs here other than service. We're a service community, oriented community. Fast food, restaurants, stores. I'm not saying anything is wrong with that, but if you've gone to school, get your doctorates, your master's, your bachelor's, my son's chemistry degree, he should not have to work for minimum wage. He shouldn't have to. He shouldn't have to go to Raleigh or to Charlotte or to Washington to earn a decent income, and more importantly, pay back those school loans.
Yes, can't forget about those every month.
So, economic parity is something that I believe is very important for our community. And if I could touch on one thing, there are many things that I'm proud of that I accomplished on City Council. Mm-hmm. Many things. The Westover Pool laid the groundwork for that, expanded bus transportation in our community, and one of the things I'm most proud of is that we're such a diverse community here in Fayetteville, and a large Latino population. Before I brought the issue to council, nothing was translated in Spanish. Oh, okay. So now when you see critical services from PwC to transit, all in Spanish, that's something that took me 3 years to do, to took me through, because no one wanted to do it because it was the good thing to do. We kind of had to apply a little pressure, but it still got done. But one of the things that I wasn't able to achieve is a disparity study. And many people may not be familiar with what it is, but most major cities across North Carolina have done one, across the country. And what it does, it looks at a community's contracting process. Millions and millions of dollars flow through the city. And what a disparity study does is it looks at who gets the opportunity to have those contracts. Mm-hmm. Statistically, who gets those contracts? And that I fought for that, and it didn't happen. Couldn't get enough votes. Raleigh has one, Charlotte has one, Durham has one, Greensboro has one, Wilmington has one, go on, but not Fayetteville. And what I think that will happen if we ever get to have a disparity study, and that's going to be another issue that I want to educate the community about. Small business owners get to keep tax dollars here in Fayetteville. So minority business owners, veterans, women, disabled. I started an effort called Hire Fayetteville First. And what that was to look at contracting dollars and see who gets it. And I can tell you, Shanessa, without a doubt, that the minority community do not get the lion's share or even opportunity to get at millions of dollars. And what a disparity study does, it gives a legal basis. A legal basis, not what I think or what I feel, but a legal basis to change the contract process in a community. And I think that when we change that, that's an economic change, game changer, and that changes people's lives. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. So, you know, people say, oh, Val, she's always coming up with something. Yeah, I am. But I think at the end of the day, it makes our community better, Shanessa. And I'm excited. I want people to get fired up about Fayetteville.
That's right.
This is our community.
It sure is. This is our home.
This is our home. And we can make it what we want to make it. And that's what I'm committed to do.
Okay. Now, Val, it's been wonderful talking with you today.
Absolutely.
I'd like for you to give your contact information if someone would like to ask you a question or be a part of the Youth Summit or any kind of things that you would like to, have in your future event.
Certainly. Email is always great. V Applewhite, VAPPLEWHITE, V Applewhite @gmail. Or I promise you, if you just search me on Facebook, I'm all over the place. Hit me up, and I'm Val Applewhite on Facebook. I'd love to hear from you. My personal cell phone, I've had the same cell phone for years, even when I was on City Council, 910-257-7962. Please contact me, email me, particularly about the Youth Summit, because that's on deck. And we look forward to getting started in January. And I'm going to try to make this easy. We'll do conference calls. We don't always have to be in the same place. Maybe we'll Skype. We'll do some things that doesn't put a lot of demand on people's time. But initially, we'll all get together and then kind of work out. So hit me up.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you so much. Have an amazing holiday, Christmas. I wish you the best, and let's look forward to a prosperous, blessed 2016.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience, for viewing Let's Talk with Dr. Shanessa Fenner.